Welcome in, podcasters, to the Preferred Experience. Once again, Will Barrett and Stacy Mills coming to you with an episode of the Preferred Experience that I think is going to be one of our most downloaded podcasts to date. Millzer, what do you think?
Oh yeah, I think we're going to have a good one here. After if we get a little preview of what we're going to talk about, this is going to be good.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. We've got two illustrious guests. One of Prattville's living legends and one of Prattville's notorious legends joining us right now. we got. I'm going to let Millzer introduce our guest right now.
AAA, effective today, hit .306 down there. And was named the International League's Rookie of the Year. In fact, he led all of minor league baseball in hits with 176. And he hits one deep to right field. And Marlon Anderson, in his first major league at bat, has hit a home run. The seventh home run hit against the Mets tonight, and the Phillies lead 15-3. And that baseball is going to be valuable to this young man. Marlon Anderson goes deep. Welcome to the big leagues, kid.
3-2 is smacked to right field. Not again. Not again. Marlon Anderson with his second home run of the game. And Halliday is ticked. He's made two mistakes tonight, both of them to that guy.
This one was further than the first one.
Now the pitch to Anderson. Fastball driven in the air toward right center field. Chasing back is Finley on the track. Reaches out, can't get it. Kicks it away. It's rolling toward the corner. Anderson around second on his way to third. Finley tracks it down. Anderson is being waved around. He's coming to the plate. The relay throw, he slides. Save! It's an inside the park home run, and it ties the game. Marlon Anderson with an inside-the-park home run. Jose Molina arguing the call. Mike Scioscia out as well. But Marlon Anderson has tied the game at 2-2 with an inside-the-park home run.
AAA, effective today.
You know, I'm sitting here listening to this highlight montage of Marlon Anderson, looking at him, watching him listen to it. He can't even look up. The most humble dude I've seen in professional sports in a very long time. He went on to hit 63 of those home runs, 371 RBIs, and a career batting average of 265 over an 11-year career in the major leagues. And he's from right here in the Preferred community. Marlon Anderson, thanks for joining us this morning.
Thanks for having me, guys. Yeah, that head down was kind of visualizing. It's so crazy. Like, you can literally close your eyes, and I've seen it so many times. I lived it. I can literally visualize the whole effect of going around the bases and the people that I'm facing and all that stuff in those situations. So it's awesome to be a part of this and awesome to be here with you guys.
Marlon Anderson's here with us, and also with us is Marcus Jackson, who I will not say anything else about.
Please don't.
And as always, Marcus. That's
as always, Marcus. Yeah, our city councilor, District 2, Marcus Jackson. Marlon and Marcus have this awesome foundation called the Marlon and Marcus Foundation, and we're going to get into that in a minute. I'm just glad to have you guys here.
Well, I'm a little upset that y'all had Robert Stritchett on. That y'all had Councilman Robert Stritchett on here before you had Councilman Marcus Jackson on here. What's up with that?
Well, you know, it's not a preferred selection thing. It's just the way they come.
Okay.
Hey, if it makes you feel any better, Councilor John Chambers is a tick that he's not on here yet. So,
oh dang!
So we're
this is the Preferred Experience, not the preferred political forum.
Oh, okay. All right.
Y'all got plenty. Y'all get to talk every Tuesday night. We don't.
These are building. They're building in quality. You see?
Okay. No, that's what it is. And I'm sure the one that he was on has been the most downloaded one thus far.
Absolutely, because we talked about beer league softball a lot, and people around here love that stuff. But speaking of a level a little bit above beer league softball, that would be Major League Baseball. And Marlon, wow! I mean, what you did from playing with the Phillies and the Rays, and the Cardinals, the Mets, the Nationals, Dodgers, and then finished with the Mets.
The great thing was listening to that little montage I put together is the names.
Yeah.
He hit 2 off Roy Halladay.
Right.
I mean, we're talking about
That's
one
not
of the
Rick Mailer.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're talking an all-timer. You heard Yadier Molina's name mentioned.
Yeah.
I mean, Finley. He's played with the best of the best in the 2000s.
And you have the people refer to you as the greatest pinch hitter of all time, possibly, like Mr. Clutch. Like you need a hit, you put Marlon in the box.
Well, that's something that I did become known for. That after my first 5 years of playing every day, I had a different role pinch hitting, and most of the time, it was 8th and 9th inning against some of the best closers and setup guys in the game at the time, and very fortunate enough to play with a lot of guys. I had those at bats before I became a pinch hitter, so I literally I had enough at bats to know who I was as a hitter. Knew how they were going to pitch me in a lot of situations, and I did a lot of research back in the day. I tell people it's not about just practicing, going out there beforehand and whatever. When you get in the big leagues and you have data that you can pull off of, and you can do your research and have the video and be able to watch guys and see them pitch before. People, I think the so-called new thing is analytics.
Right.
Not really understanding that we've been doing that forever in sports. It's just now it's more at your fingertips because of the computer that's changing. Instead of me watching a VHS tape and having to rewind back when I want to see a guy or do whatever, now everything is automated. You can pull up quick or whatever. Data comes quickly, but we've always been data-driven in the game of baseball.
Yeah, and the availability is what's amazing about it, because when on those highlight clips, that very first one, I can remember sitting on my couch when my roommate Mike Smith, me and him, who's an old teammate of Marlon's, we were sitting there and we saw that very first home run, and you saw it when it happened, but you never, you don't hear that call until 10, 15 years later. Now it's all you can pull it up on YouTube like that, and that's what he's talking about. The information is such at hand now that anybody can be an expert, or a so-called expert, real fast.
And I think that might be one of the problems with the game today is that everybody
and
thinks
we're
they're
getting
an expert.
a massive nod right now over here to our side here.
And, go ahead, Marlon.
Well, if you read any book about being an expert at anything, it takes time. It takes and it's actually doing that thing, not reading about that thing. You can read a lot of books and you can see a lot of video. You can do that, but when you get better at something, is actually doing it. I can't remember who wrote the book, but it's about building up myelin in your, just the consistency. But it's like 10,000 hours of doing something actually makes you an expert at it.
Right.
Not 10,000 hours of watching something or reading something, whatever, but actually doing that thing. That's what gives you the information to be able to, sometimes to be able to pass it on. I can watch games and see things that sometimes like people never pick up and never watch or whatever. I watch guys giving lessons now. And I'm critical about a lot of things. I want to help every person be able to meet their maximum potential and talent, whatever that is. But they need good information from people who have done it before. And not always from people who watched it or read a book about it and think they're expert at it and make themselves the expert at it, except for they didn't have the experience of being on the field and actually doing it for all that time.
And the other aspect of having the right mindset for the game is not just knowing the analytics, not just knowing the actual skill set, but also having it between the ears of how to play this game the right way. We see that we were talking about before we came on this Tennessee game last night, where this guy, maybe one of the greatest players in NCAA baseball right now, is ejected from a super regional game because he's chirping at the umpire on a strike 2 call.
Yes.
What did he say? Never mind.
This is a family program, Marcus.
See, when I upload this, I have to check a box. Is there explicit language in this? And I don't want to check that box.
Okay.
So,
But that kid's doing that because he's never been checked.
Yeah.
Nobody's ever told him, like, this is not how we do it, son.
Yeah.
We don't do it like this. And it's filtered down all the way down into 8U and 10U and 12U. This is a problem.
Yeah, it is a problem. And I tell people back in the day, umpires have always been bad. You're going to have bad calls. Things like that are going to happen. What I, as an athlete, as a person that was competing, I always felt like I was better than the people I was competing against. And I was going to figure out how to get a hit. Even if the umpire, made a bad call, as long as he didn't take my last strike, I'm okay.
Yeah.
Now, I've had my run-in with run-in with umpires, which nobody's perfect on that. But I can promise you, I never got tossed out of a game from arguing with an umpire in the big leagues. When I got to the big leagues, I never said a thing to an umpire. I never looked back to an umpire or anything until I had at least 3-4 years in the big leagues. Mm-hmm. You don't do it if you're going to get there. I always tell people, a lot of things have accepted now. I think kids learn and see things and say, well, I can do it, instead of earning the right to be able to say that to an umpire at a time where it's going to make sense. And it's going to be the right thing. It's going to be handled in the right way. But anytime you turn around and say something directly to an umpire, most of the time you're going to get tossed. Whether it's a good call or a bad call, you just hurt your team in that situation.
Yeah. And it's even double because now he can't play today.
Can't play today. Yeah, right. And they could be eliminated today.
Mm-hmm.
If Tennessee could. If Notre Dame wins again, it's a problem.
Yeah, it is a problem. And again, we can go dive into that a little bit. I'm going to try to be more, upbeat on this. But it's the behavior of just kids really everybody is special. And,
right.
Instead of everybody being the team guy who's going to pick up the team, do the little things, be the guy that's not heard, but seen, doing all the right things. Nobody wants to be that guy anymore. Everybody wants to be the superstar. And that's just not possible to have a whole team of superstars, because it takes everybody doing the little things on a baseball field for the team to win and for it to be more about the team game. It's not about me and my one at bat. It's about what do the team needs from me right now. And, I pride myself in that as after my first 5 years of playing every day, I could have complained. I could have been on the team sulking or whatever because I wasn't getting at bats, but I knew I was going to have one at bat that night. Mm-hmm. I knew it was going to be my chance that night to help my team, whether it's against a setup guy, the closer, tie game, up by one, down by one. I was going to have an opportunity to make a change. So that's where my preparation to be ready for that moment. And I think a lot of kids don't see the moment as trying to help the team. It's my moment to do whatever it is that I want to be able to shine and show everybody about myself. And I think that's what hurts a lot of sports, not just baseball. I think a lot of sports these days are hurt because people are trying to make their personal impact right now. Mm-hmm. So
we see it in football too, in the high school level, where you've got 3 and 4 deep on the defensive line. You got nobody on the offense. Nobody wants to play offensive line because it's not a glory position, right? You're not making any big sticks. Yeah. And then the team struggles, the team suffers because we got all these defensive linemen, nobody on offensive line. Oh. And then if you try to move them, they quit.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, that's what, I look back at my football days at Prattville High School. Coach Washington came in my freshman year, so my 3 years of high school, I had Coach Washington, Coach Gibbs, that crew that came in and, they changed the game. But Prattville is known for a lot of athletes, guys that play football. Like, I sat on the bench for 2 years. My senior year, I finally got a chance to play. But those first 2 years, I was running scout team. I'm running back. I'm getting beat up by the offense. I'm carrying dummies around. Like, I got these older guys, beating the heck out of me just by me doing my job and helping the team. But on Friday nights, when you win, we all win.
That's right.
And I think that concept is lost because it's not taught at an early age. Again, we give too many trophies out too early in life. I see people now with travel ball, and you see big rings on everybody's fingers from stuff they're getting. And it drives me nuts because you're setting the precedence that you're special at every single thing you do in life, and that's just not true. You earn the respect by doing things little by little, behind closed doors with nobody watching, with nobody seeing, and that's what actually makes you a better person and a superstar at whatever it is that you do.
But social media, I think social media is driving that. Everyone's doing it for the likes and all that. So I have a problem with that too, just because of the social media effect.
Yep.
Because everyone wants to show I'm special and, look at me, look at this, whatever. And I just have a problem with it.
Sports are humbling. You're going to fail. Baseball, if you only fail 70% of the time, you're an all-star, you're a Hall of Fame, you're whatever.
Exactly.
So you're going to fail. How do you handle failure decides how far you go. Well, your talent's going to decide that, but how you handle failure is going to decide whether you're going to be successful at whatever it is that you do.
You said you hit on the rings. I don't understand the rings. Like the weekend tournament.
14. I've seen kids
14
get rings
World Series.
for a 14 tournament. They get an 8-year-old wearing a ring after winning a 14 tournament.
So by the time you're a sophomore in high school, ready to try out for the high school baseball team or the football team, go out for a sport, you've got a box full of these rings. No. So a state championship ring is just another ring in the box. And that's that's the prize, right?
Well, that's where you have to get back to. Any time that a league is created so the parents can have their kids be successful at whatever, then you're going to have the people who are making those decisions those are not coaches that have been coaching their whole lives and built up the reputation of how to go about things, how to do things, trying to get the best out of the kids or whatever, begging kids to come play. Like, no, it's like you play because you want to play. It's not about the reward of number one, if I didn't win the championship, I don't want a ring anyways.
Right.
If I won a championship, it's not about the ring, it's about the bragging rights so I can be able to talk about, like, you know what, like I beat everybody in this tournament. Our team together, we did it together, we pulled together, we had adversity, we pulled through it, and we were the ones that win this. And we go to Pizza Hut or McDonald's or whatever, and you get a little food in you, everybody talk about it, and then you go about your way.
Yeah.
And you try to do the same thing the next week or the next season or whenever it is that you're coming up.
I got a little example. Back when in 2011, the last time Prattville won a state championship, Coach Dubose calls me into the office. He says, I need to get your ring size because I'm going to order you a ring. I said, no, you're not. He said, yes. He said, do you get a ring? I said, I just broadcasted the games. I don't deserve the ring. The kids that were out there every day sweating on the field and the coaches and the trainers, they deserve the rings. And that really bugged me that so many people thought they would deserve a ring from that state championship team because they were helping them.
Right.
It's like I told Coach DuBose, my job is to tell the story. My job isn't to be a part of the story.
Yeah.
And that comes back to what you're saying. Everybody feels like they deserved a ring, and it's the ones that put in the work that deserve it, not the support people. I mean, your reward ought to see the people that you're supporting being champions and winning.
Happy.
That's your reward is watching them do that.
Yeah, seeing them be happy.
Well, I think, we set people up for failure sometimes. Life is tough. We've all lived life all the time. Life is tough or whatever, but we sometimes through sports, we teach kids that you're going to reap the rewards from what you're doing, even if you're not really doing. I'm having to beg him to go to practice. I'm having to make sure that he does this. He does, I'm having to put out his clothes for him. Having to make sure that he goes to practice. Have to make sure that he's taking the extra swings. Have to make sure he's getting. And we're making them do all these things, and then when they get out on life by themselves, they're looking around trying to see who's going to help me do this now because I don't know how to do anything for myself.
I've always had it handed to me.
Yes.
And you said something a minute ago that just really resonated with me. You talked about playing football through your senior year.
Yep.
You were an 11-year Major League Baseball player.
Yep.
You made it.
Yep.
Nowadays, if a kid thinks he's got a potential to play at the college level baseball, he's not going to play football.
Well, I always tell people, look at stats, because stats have been around for a long time. And even big league teams right now, the GMs, the minor league coordinators, whatever, they are drafting kids that play two sports in high school, 2 and 3 sports. They don't want a guy who specializes in baseball. Now, they're having to take more guys because more guys are doing it, but they want the athlete that played basketball, that played football. All these different sports help you to be able to build different muscle memory. It helps you be able to be special at something, do something a little bit better. But when you don't do anything but focus on baseball, you end up seeing Dr. Andrews real quick and in a hurry because
that
you're
overuse.
That overuse. Yeah, you need the cross training. In high school baseball, I look back. And again, you can always look back at things, but again, Coach Gibbs and Coach Watson came in. We had an intense off-season workout program, and during that time, baseball came in the spring. Well, there was also spring football practice. That was weight room time. We were working on agilities and doing all these things. I was always my strongest at baseball season because I was doing all this stuff for football, and it helped me to elevate my game. It helped me to stay fresh all the time. It helped me to be quicker than I probably would have been otherwise. So it helped me to be a better athlete because I was always training my body in different ways for different sports. And again, it's just the coaches that were in my life at the time.
So you're hearing it from not just a professional Major League Baseball player, but also a professional coach after following baseball and a professional broadcaster following baseball, and Marlon Anderson telling you, do not specialize.
Do everything. Play as many sports as possible, as much as possible. And, there's even, you look at, I've been very fortunate in my time to be around a lot of great athletes, a lot of good two-way players, a lot of the best pitchers in the world, and I've played with them and had conversations with them and had dinner with them. Talking to CC Sabathia not long ago, and he wanted to be a hitter and whatever, but he hit. He played basketball. He did everything as a kid. You look back. Good friends with Tom Glavine, and Tom got drafted as a hockey player.
As a hockey player,
out
right?
Of high school, and he was pretty good. And they thought he was going to be in the NHL. But when you specialize at something, you stop growth in other areas of your life. And I think for me, being fortunate enough to to be around guys and to see it and to listen to GMs, owners, minor league coordinators, minor league directors, people who are running these minor leagues, to listen and be in those rooms in conversation and them looking for that player and taking the two-way player over the guy who's specialized because they know sooner or later that guy's going to be hurt if he hadn't already been broken before. Right.
Okay, he was mentioning all these great athletes that he's played with. I did not hear Marcus Jackson listed in that.
See, Marcus was the guy back in the day in Dixie Youth. They used to try to stack their team to try to beat me. They used to always try to stack their team. They would play with me one year, and then the next year they try to stack the team to be able to beat us.
Well, I'm going to come back to that. What about CC Crawford? Carl Crawford.
He's one of the best athletes ever to play baseball ever.
No doubt.
Best athletes in anything. But he had a scholarship to play football at Nebraska. He had a baseball scholarship for University of Texas, and he had a basketball scholarship for UCLA.
Good grief.
Coming out of high school. Those were his options. And then he was a first-round pick by Tampa Bay coming out of high school. So, again, being athletic and doing multiple things, and that's what makes you valuable. That's what
you see it across the board. You can see it across 100%. The board in any sport. Probably one of the best quarterbacks that never played quarterback is Allen Iverson.
Yeah. And one of the best shortstops, too. I've had conversations. When I was in Philly, he was there, whatever. He used to come to baseball games. He loved it. But he was a shortstop in high school.
Wow.
And he said he was a better shortstop than he was quarterback. And we know he was a better basketball player than any of them. So. Yeah.
And Tom Brady. He was going to be drafted playing baseball.
Goodness gracious. And yeah.
But yet, like you said, it's so ingrained in the kids today that you have to specialize.
Yes. Yeah.
When the examples are glaring otherwise.
I always tell guys the toughest thing as a kid and as a parent when you're trying to help your kids in sports or whatever is you don't normally have access to big leaguers that have done it before. You don't have access to people who have been successful. You can't have those conversations. You can't talk to them. You don't have access to the GMs that are drafting people and all the different. You have conversations for people that are in a room somewhere that are talking about something that, and most of the time they don't know what it is they're talking about, and they're pretending to be experts when they really don't actually know anything about what really goes on.
I think I found the other career that Marlon can add to his repertoire. He needs to be a motivational speaker.
You got it, man.
You need to get paid to go to these high schools and get these kids in a gymnasium and lay it out for them.
And Marcus will drive you around.
No. Well, you're talking about going back to Dixie Youth. He had aspirations of being a pitcher. But one year, we killed that dream.
They stacked the team. Go ahead.
One year, Tom Carr was our coach. He always, for whatever reason, how did Dennis Lawrence always end up with you on his team?
Because my dad always coached with him.
Whatever. He stacked his team. So
that's
one year, so he had aspirations of being a pitcher. Tom Carr, we had Eric Fisher and all these guys, Chris Llewellyn.
Courtney Moore was on that team.
So anyway,
they stacked the team again. They stacked the team. Go ahead.
One game. And somehow Tom had maybe 5 or 6 black black boys on the team, and we all hit home runs. We all hit home runs off of Marlon. One game.
One time.
It was like 5 home runs in one game. And I don't think you ever pitched again after that.
No,
we were like 12 years old.
I pitched until I was 13, and then I got the realization. I knew it wasn't my thing then.
Whatever.
But I could throw strikes.
You talking about a bad attitude. I think he walked off the field, threw his glove, threw his bat.
If I'm hearing this correctly, Marcus Jackson just said he hit Marlon Anderson off the pitcher's mound.
Oh God, yeah! I made him quit. I've made him quit a few times.
Tapped out.
And look, and it took him places he never thought he could go.
Exactly. Yeah. So
now you got this wealth of information, this wealth of knowledge that you can give to the generation coming up, and you've chosen to do that in this foundation, the Marlon and Marcus Foundation, and it's what you're planning on doing, what you already have underway, is just fascinating. It's just amazing for this community. Talk a little bit about your foundation, the Marlon and Marcus Foundation, why it exists, and why Prattville.
Well, I think Marcus and I, again, we've been close since the time we were kids or whatever. Leaving college, Marcus would always come to South Alabama. During my time off, I always go to Auburn, hang But we always had a desire to see better in our community. It's just something, even as young kids, we talked about, the black community needed certain things to be better. And we always talked about, always was something that was on the agenda. We've talked about doing things when I was playing, and people were like, okay, in the middle of careers, you're trying to specialize and be the best at something. The timing had never been right for it. We've always grown up and, we've been around, we hung out, but I never had the time to be able to spend here to do some of those things and to see some of those people. Marcus was doing his thing. The timing just wasn't right. And the right person wasn't right, because you have to do something like this with somebody you trust, somebody you want to spend time with, somebody that you enjoy being around, somebody that you have some of the same ideas with. So I think the timing of all of this, after the career was over, after I was done coaching, after I was, playing, after I was done coaching, after I was, actually being here in Prattville a little bit more and doing things here, the timing just seemed to be right for it. And, I think Marcus being in the know, being on the council of the things that's going around, seeing things that were not getting done that we needed in this community. I think that just kind of pulled everything together. Marcus reached out to me, we talked about it, and it was taken more serious, I think, after we started talking about it in the last couple of years, that we actually could pull it together and be able to do it now. So giving back to our community, the people that raised us, the people that supported us, the people that, made a safe space for us to be able to thrive in our lives.
Sure.
That's the community we want to make sure that we're a part of and able to give back to in a big way here in Prattville.
Yeah, I think, just looking, there's just a segment of the community that I think has been forgotten about, left out for so many years. And being in the school system, being on the council, like he said, he mentioned safe spaces. We need more safe spaces for our young people. Every year I hear, I get calls from mothers like, hey, where can my kid go for the summer? We have the YMCA, and the YMCA is great. I love David Lewis and what they've done, Keith and David. I'm actually on the board now. But city of Prattville is almost 40,000 people now. So we need more safe spaces in the community for after-school programs, summer programs,
tutoring.
And why not put something right here in the heart of this particular community where, the needs are the greatest. So that's why I reached out and I said, hey, look, here's some land here. This is an opportunity for us to make a positive impact and provide a safe space for this community.
And so the Marlon and Marcus Foundation has this dream, right?
Yep. Dream Center.
The Dream Center. And if you haven't seen the renderings of the Dream Center, it's amazing.
Yep.
It's absolutely amazing. And this is part of the reason why the Marlon and Marcus Foundation has fundraisers.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, reached out. I think it was Krebs that Marcus knew some Auburn contacts from when he went to college up there.
Shout out to Owen Ray Womack.
and I think
All right, now you're gonna get Will a little fired up now, because that is a rival.
No, we're rivals, but I like Ray. Yeah, I'm good with Ray.
The biggest thing, in talking to, because it's the Dream Center, but he talked to me like, what do you visualize? One of the biggest things I've been able to do because of baseball, because of Major League Baseball, is to travel around the country. I played in a lot of major cities. I've done a lot of work in the community. I've done different events with Sharon Robinson, Jackie Robinson's daughter, with her program and the different things that she's doing. And I've learned a lot from people I've been fortunate enough to be around. So I've seen how people have done things. And one of the things for me is you reach for the stars.
Right.
When talking to Krebs, one of the things they asked, what do you want? What do you envision? And I said, I want the building to be the premier building, not just in our community, but in the city of Prattville. I want people to pass by and then to see it, for them to walk in, to be like, this is something that's special. This is built for me. I want kids to be like, this is what you sold into me. And I did. I went above and beyond on how I wanted to look, what you wanted to see, you wanted to be. And they did a great job of pulling that dream together through conversations and through talking with that. So for me, that's why it is the way it is, because I dreamed, I've seen, I've looked, and I just wanted to be the best thing for our community that you can ever think about.
And he did, because I had talked to Will a little bit about it for a while, and what they ended up with on paper wasn't close to what I talked to you about. I was like, hey, man, it was like a little aluminum building.
Yeah, you're talking about a gym, you know, and then the next thing you know, you got this center, and it's like, whoa.
Yeah.
This is supposed to be in downtown Philadelphia.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. You know, I'm very conservative by nature, so I'm just like, hey, you know, we can get this little gym and, you know, whatever. Next thing you know, I get to talking to him, and he's like, hey, man, it needs to be like this, it needs to be that, and next thing you know, it's a multi-million-dollar facility. And I'm like, geez.
And that's been part of the growing pains of this city. You know, the meteoric rise of Prattville from 1995 to 2022. We've gone from 17,000 people to over 40,000 people in this last census. The metropolitan area of Prattville. For the longest time, when it came to facilities, when it came to just about anything, it was, well, it's good enough.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's good enough. And this current administration at Powell, I mean, hats off to them. They don't adopt the "it's good enough" anymore. Yeah. It's got to be excellent. They want excellence, and that's what is coming into the city. And the Marlon Marcus Foundation and the Dream Center is just playing into that. We want excellence. We want elite level.
And I think for the kids to walk in there and see that this is for them, and they see that excellence, now they can dream a little bit further. You know, I think you have to show people something that they can achieve or something they can do. I was, again, very fortunate to be able to travel as much and do some of the things I was able to do. But, you know, I was green. Mm-hmm. I remember, you know, getting on the plane and flying to Philadelphia when I first got drafted and having to go to Florida and do like, I was absolute green. I had no idea, you know, and you first get there, you go to small cities. But as you progress and you start getting better and you progress, like you know, even some of the minor league cities that I played in, you know, we were in Buffalo, New York, where like Buffalo was, you know, huge compared to Prattville.
Right.
You know, Clearwater, Florida, I spent, you know, years down there. Like, it's a real city that's right outside of Tampa that, like, they are thriving and doing a lot of things. So for me, seeing things like that kind of sparked that, and, you know, it played a big role in who I became as a person as I grew up. So for me, I wanted to be able to give some of those same dreams and provide some of those same things for the kids that's here in Prattville.
And if you want to see perfect evidence of this philosophy is the actual golf tournament itself. It is a tremendous event. I mean, last year was a first class operation from start to finish. You had so many great major league legends coming in, as Marlon brought in, and I'm gonna tell you what, real quick. Luis Gonzalez is one of the funniest men that ever walked planet Earth, and I will die on that hill. I mean, I've never for a 10-minute conversation, I've never laughed that hard in my life.
And you can ask anybody in the big leagues that's had the conversation with him, and most of them would say the exact same thing. He's just got that personality, and he's that kind of guy.
And you didn't think that, you know, he didn't look like that kind of a guy, you know, playing ball. You just thought he was a serious ball player. Oh, yeah. No, this dude is nowhere near serious.
And I was fortunate enough to know him. I mean, when I first went to South Alabama, of course, he's a South Alabama guy. And when I first got there, I was on the team with his brother, and then I was his brother's roommate. So I've known Louis since I was like 18, 19 years old, and he's been nothing but the ultimate professional in everything. And, you know, him coming to support us and be here for us was great. But Louis is a great example of people who have learned to do it right and people who do it right.
And these people, these former major leaguers, they don't come to you and do things like this for you and with you unless you have been the consummate team player to them. Yeah. You talked about earlier about doing things to get your numbers up, to do things for yourself in this daddy ball era that we're living in. These kids are going to be lonely when their career's over because nobody's going to want to be around them.
Absolutely. It's a tough thing. I tell people, sacrificing in the mix of a game where there's a winner and losing, people, you know, it's a tough thing to do. You have to eat your pride sometimes. Not, you know, I can't say I've always been perfect at it, but I've learned from some of the people that came before me. I learned from, for me, from guys who spent time with me, who, you know, you go to dinner with, you hang out, you have conversations, and, you know, you learn from a guy you may love to death, and you learn how not to do it from a guy you may not like very much, and you see how he's done it. But there's something to learn from everybody, and you learn the most from people who care about other people and who are concerned about the good and the bad that's going on around the country or whatever, and like this just true everyday people. I tell people, like, you know, never dug into politics, you know, as a player, and what, like, you know, you're teammates with a guy, you're teammates, you're part of a team, we love each other, we do it. Like, it was the love that was shown that you can deal with somebody. It's just something that for me it was always special to me, and it makes me, again, that's why I'm friendly with everybody. I've been a part of and seen people from all across the world come into one clubhouse and really work together in everything they do. So
it's beautiful.
Okay, now let's get a little more localized. Growing up, who were your biggest influences in this community?
Jeez.
Both. This is for both.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Jeez.
No, I mean my biggest influence in life, is definitely my mom, but my great grandfather, who I grew up on his land down in the loop down there in the flats down there. He had 80 acres that I grew up on, and he was 74 years old when I was born. He died when my sophomore year of college. I got to spend 20 years with him, day in, day out. I grew up, 2 football length fields away from him and spent time with him every day. And I didn't always understand it, as a kid or whatever, but, after he passed and some of the life lessons and things that I go through, I always refer back to him and the lessons I learned from him sitting on the porch. He was always, if I was leaving out, he was the last house that I stopped at before I went out, and he was always the first one I stopped at coming in. When I was younger, we lived with them for a while, so waking up, and my great-grandmother always had pound cake in the kitchen, and she'd always feed people. But, I was out following him around, watching him work hard. And, he's a black man in the middle of Alabama in 1941 with 80 acres. That's not something that's normal.
No.
Right.
And for it to still be in the family, but the lessons I learned out on that land with him is, for me, is the ultimate person that I only think about when I'm doing majority of things in my life that I do. I always refer back to those lessons and who he was, and always talked about treating people the way you want to be treated. And, and he was a person that you couldn't steal something from him because he was going to give it to you if you needed it.
Right.
And I think it's so funny. I heard somebody, again, it's this generation, and it's the daddy ball, and it's the whatever. I said, treat people the way you want to be treated. That's scripture from the Bible that he believed in and went in. And I heard somebody not long ago was like, well, no, you don't treat people the way you want to be treated. You treat people the way they want to be treated. And it's like, I have no idea how you want to be treated.
Right.
But I know how I want to be treated. It's going to be with respect. It's going to be with patience. It's going to be with time. Like, that's what I'm going to try to give you. If I try to give you what you need, I'm going to be confused. I'm not going to know what it is. Things are going to get twisted, and I'm not. But if I treat you well, because I know I want to be treated well in every situation, then I'll be fine as a person.
Absolutely. Amen. Straight from the Bible.
Yeah.
Well,
Marcus, who?
My parents, my parents had us young. And one thing I could tell people, and I look at folks, my parents, they had us young, but one thing they always did, they always worked. You have so many people look at the economy now, people don't want to work. But I look at my parents working 2 and 3 jobs to provide for us. They could have sat back and waited on things to be given to them and to us. But that's one thing I saw from both parents. You don't wait for handouts. You don't wait for people. You make it happen. And then, of course, all my coaches.
Yeah.
I had a lot of coaches and a lot of mentors.
Throw some names out there so people will recognize some of them. I'm sure they will.
We go back to like Tom Carr and, even Dennis Lawrence and Rayburn Fisher, Coach Boyd. Who am I missing here? Mike Sheridan. I remember those guys. Coach Page, Coach Minor. All those guys played a huge part, and that's why, I wanted to be a coach. Coming back and working with people and working with kids, being mentored. My youth pastor was Thomas Shipman. I used to go and sit in his office every Saturday. I would walk to the church, sit up in his office, and he gave me an opportunity to just talk. He listened. And that's why I try to take time now with young people, especially young boys, because they don't know how to communicate. We're not great communicators. But he would give me that opportunity to sit in his office, and he just talked. He never judged me. He just listened. And as I got older, Jerry Brown, he's in Atlanta, mentor, he brought me in. He said, look, this is how you do things. I was kind of like, he was an older white man. It was kind of like different strokes. Here I am living.
Mr. Drummond?
Mr. Drummond. Yeah, Jerry Brown. I was like, I'm living in the basement out of college, and here it is. He took me in, and We had a great time. He taught me a lot of life lessons.
Well, I know as kids, growing up playing youth football here I played with the Raiders. I don't know a lot of guys in the community played with the Bears, but I played with the Raiders. But Tim Robinson was that guy who very early in my football career and just in the community was the guy who gave back and spent a lot of time with us and tried to teach us the right way.
Yeah.
Baseball, Dennis Lawrence he was my guy. From the time that I was 9 years old, I think he was my summer league coach. And from the age of 9 until I graduated at 18, I played with him every single summer. Dennis came in. It was unique because Dennis was just finishing up. He was working, but he had just finished up college at Huntington University, or Huntington College, I think it was, Huntington College at the time. And he was just a college, division, NAIA college baseball, but some of those little tips that he gave me from playing over there, whatever, as a 9-year-old, 10-year-old kid was changed my game, changed my mindset. He would always be very positive when he saw me do things or whatever. He bought me my first real glove, so he spent a lot of time in my life and literally helped to mold my confidence in who I was as a player. You go to high school and you get Coach Lambert, which was, absolutely amazing baseball mind, baseball person, but
still doing it today.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But, it's not the on the field stuff. The on the field stuff was easy with him, but, a lot of people don't know the story. Coming out of high school, I was one core class short. Had no idea. I had my grades. I made my ACT score. I was getting ready to go to college or whatever. And they told Coach Lambert. Well, Coach Lambert went to the teacher. He went to the state education. He had the principal, had all this stuff. And he worked behind the scenes to get one of the classes that I was taking, which was an elective, but got it as a core class. Because it wasn't that I didn't take a class my senior year. I was because I had all my credits, I had everything good. I was going to college, everything was set, and I didn't know. But he fought for me behind the scenes when nobody else knew, nobody else did it. Those teachers that fought for me, and I got into South Alabama. They only got it settled. Literally, I was 2 weeks away from going when they got it settled, and I was able to go. So what Coach Lambert did for me opened up the door for me to go to South Alabama, which opened up the door for me to be able to live the life I'm living now. But I don't think he told me until maybe 5 years later. I never knew that it was an opportunity. But I say that and tell that story. Who you are as a person is what dictates how hard people will fight for you and what they'll do for you without you having to ask.
Yeah.
And I think for me, if I would have been the guy who was always late, the guy who didn't pay attention, the guy who wasn't a good teammate, the guy who made excuses, the guy who wouldn't work, then I may not have been able to get in college to go to South Alabama because Coach Lambert may not have fought for me in that way if I wasn't the person that I was. So I look back to the people again. Why the Marlon Marcus Foundation? The people in the community taught me how to be respectful. They taught me how to do the right thing. They taught me how to care about other people. And it translated in my life in a way to where it literally changed the rest of my life because people were willing to sacrifice and give their time, effort, and sometimes money in order to make sure that I had the things that I needed. So.
Unbelievable. Yeah. Unbelievable, man. That is absolutely incredible. Hey, we're going to put links to the Marlon Marcus Foundation in the show notes.
Yes.
And the events coming up, if you want to get involved with the foundation, if you want to donate to the foundation, if you want to get involved with the golf tournament coming up, the links are going to be there in the show notes. Mm-hmm. So I encourage everybody to go to the show notes after the show and click on those links and get involved because I'm telling you, these guys are creating life change in this community. They're breathing life into a community that really needs it. And
because we wouldn't be here without this community.
Yeah.
We wouldn't be here without so many people. And that's one thing I think in life that people think they make it on their own, but we never make it on our own. God places people along our path to help us get to where we need to be.
Perfect example is, Marcus grew up in Prattville his whole life. I grew up in the Prattville area my whole life. I didn't even know Marcus until my college age years. Didn't even know, Now we're pretty close friends now, and it's because of our ties to this community, and we know who each other is and what we're about.
Yeah.
Well, guys, thank you so much for being here today. This has been enlightening to me. It's been uplifting to me, and I know Millzer too.
Yeah, absolutely. This is definitely a message everybody needs to hear.
I'd always heard about the great Marlon Anderson, but never really got a chance to sit down and talk to you. And this has been I needed this today, man. Thanks a lot.
That's awesome. Thanks for having again. Like when you've been given so much, and again, this community has helped me, and I always try to represent it in the right way, and I always try to, talk to people about Prattville, and me being able to bring my former teammates back to this community to show people, number one, that they're worthy of having good things in their presence.
Yes.
Things happen to them. For me, that's one of the biggest things that I get out of this golf tournament. And the money we raise is great. The things we're doing is great. But being able to show that, you've raised me the right way, this community, I want to give back and try to, give these kids something to put that can show them that things outside of their sight is, obtainable if you go about it the right way.
Absolutely.
Well, we're getting close to that time, I think. Another gentleman I think y'all two know very well, and his little segment and the contribution he makes to the show. And before we go any further, I want to clarify, I did not throw a chair through the wall at Paul Brown Stadium in Cincinnati, Ohio. I threw a chair, it just didn't go through the wall.
This is a section we like to call Poetic Justice with Chip Powell.
Love it.
And we're going to go to that. Go to that right now, and I'm sorry you guys have to hear this.
Welcome back to another exhilarating episode of Poetic Justice with your host, Chip Powell. I will have to say two things. I was late last week. I went too long, but when you love poetry like I do, sometimes you do that. I was going to announce my co-host. He couldn't make it this week. He's actually at a poetic conference down in Florida this weekend, so maybe he'll come back with some new ideas. But today's poem comes from the poetic mastermind Robert Frost, another 20th century poet. Today's Fire and Ice. I'll go ahead and I'll break this down because it's a very short poem. But some say the world will end in fire. Some say in ice. From what I've tasted of desire, I hold with those who favor fire. But I've had to perish twice. I think I know enough of hate to say that for destruction ice is also great and would suffice. Wow. It's so deep. It's so deep that most of y'all in my audience don't have a clue what this means, so I'm going to explain it to you. He wrote this right after World War I, obviously a very short poem. And to break it down in my terms, Robert's just saying, all right, man, the world's going to end tomorrow, man. How are we going out, fire or ice? I mean, which one you reckon? And he breaks it down a little bit more than that, but that's how I break it down. I mean, he just says that the world's going to be destroyed someday. And fire symbolizes greed and ice symbolizes coldness in relation and hate. But he does say the world is bound to be destroyed one day. But I hope this doesn't darken your day that we're talking about this, but people are talking about the end of time. And Robert Frost did this in 1920. Unbelievable. Thank you for joining me.
I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry.
Oh, my God.
That was beautiful.
I can tell he loves doing this.
Yeah,
I can tell. This is right up his alley. I can tell he loves it.
Well, yeah, the first time he did it, he explained to us that he wanted that he was going to drop English lit because it was interfering with his football practice, and he said, Coach Dye said, "No, son, I need you to go to English literature. I don't need you here. I need
must
you
chase that passion."
Chase that passion.
So they were at a poetic conference.
Yeah, his co-host couldn't make it this week. He's going to have a regular that's going to, and we're going to leave that one a surprise. Everybody, it will be a delight for everybody.
I don't even know who it is.
You don't know who it is, but trust me, you will. You don't want to know.
Anonymous co-host. Well, do we have a motivational minute this week?
Yeah, and then this one is actually This one is Coach Donny Burnett gives us our little motivational minute every week, and this one actually has a golf theme because of the Marlon and Marcus Foundation golf tournament coming up. So let's take a listen and see what Coach Donny Burnett how he could get us fired up and ready for the week.
This is Coach Donny Burnett, and here's your motivational minute. Today's quote comes from the great Bagger Vance. Golf is a game you cannot win. This is Coach Donny Burnett for your motivational minute.
Well, I know I'm fired up. I'm fired up.
As you can see, we've got some quality contributors to the show.
Yes. So this is the beginning of greatness. I can already feel it for the Preferred Experience podcast. We're all going to be able to quit our jobs before too long.
Oh my God.
Yeah, we definitely don't need to quit our day jobs right now, though.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet. But anyway, Marcus Jackson, Marlon Anderson, thank you so much for being with us today. It's been a delight and a pleasure. We look forward to what the Marlon and Marcus Foundation is going to continue to do in this community and reaching new heights of excellence and an elite level. Just what you guys are doing. Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Appreciate you guys. Thank y'all.
All right, that'll do it for the Preferred Experience podcast. Everybody love everybody, and as always, good night. God bless. Go Lions.
All right, that's going to do it for this week. Man, Will, love you coming in, pinch hitting, and dude, you hit a grand slam tonight.
Well, expect nothing less from me, Daryl. I'm the best.